started, can I just ask if you haven't joined in mute, if you can mute your microphone. It's just going to make it a lot easier for everybody to hear the speakers today and not get any background noise. We've got nearly 50 people in the room, so I shall keep an eye on the breakout room. Sorry, at the waiting room. Actually, they keep coming in. The minute I'm trying to say something, more people are popping up. I can't keep pace with it today. So let's get started. So welcome everybody to this month's Wunforall. We're delighted to have you here. For those of you who may be new to the Wunforall network, a huge welcome. Thank you for coming along. My name's Hayley Monks. I am one of the founders of the Women's Utility Network. I'm absolutely passionate here about recruiting, retaining and developing women in our sector. We think it's an incredibly important thing as founders, hence setting up the network. We'd also like to, as we go into this, do a huge thank you to our sponsors and partners. They're the people that actually enable us to do a lot of the stuff that we do to support you all with your careers in the utilities sector. So thank you for them too. I actually will also be in the background for all of this today. I'll be facilitating this, so I'll be keeping an eye on the waiting room. If you've got any technical issues, then please, you can message me directly in the chat and I'll do what I can to help you. We've got a busy agenda today, which is why I'm really keen to get us started as soon as possible, because we've got two great speakers and we want to give you guys the opportunity for a Q&A. We have, as I said, we have a lot of participants on the call today. We're already up to 55 and people are still joining. So it's not going to be really practical for us to unmute and have those conversations in person. So as our speakers are talking today, if you see something that you'd like to ask questions around, if you want to something specific, please put it in the chat to all. It could well be that somebody else has got exactly that question in mind. And so everybody can see the questions being asked, and that after both of our speakers have finished today, then we will do a Q&A. The Q&A will be moderated by Sharon Sage. So Sharon, can you give us a wave in your window? Say hello. Sharon is one of our advocates who we've recently recruited to the One team. So we're absolutely delighted that she's with us here today, and she's going to be introducing our speakers and doing supporting the Q&A at the end. So have I forgotten anything? No? Fantastic. Okay, Sharon, over to you.
Thank you, Hayley. Hello, everybody, and thank you to the One for giving me the opportunity today. As Hayley said, we've got a great couple of speakers today for you, and the first one is a lady called Connie Dickie. Now, Connie is the Employment Engagement Manager at UK Power Networks. Connie's been within the utilities industry for 13 years, and 10 of those have been within the communications and engagement side. Now, at the moment, Connie's role within UKPN is just to ensure that all employees are aware of all the opportunities that are available to them. So I'll pass over to Connie, but as Hayley said, please don't be scared, put some questions in the chat, and then we can feed those back into Connie. Over to you.
Excellent. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen, so please bear with me 2 seconds. Hopefully you can all see that. Thumbs up. Yeah, nice. Okay. So yes, hi, I'm Connie, and I'm going to talk to you today about empowering and supporting employees throughout COVID-19. When I was asked if I'd speak at today's event, I was really chuffed because employee engagement is something that I'm genuinely passionate about. I think that everyone has got the right to go to work and understand what they have access to and be happy there. And in short, that's what my role enables me to do in terms of signposting and making lots of different things available to employees. So so that's excellent for me and everyone else that gets to benefit from it, I guess. So in terms of what we do at UK Paradox in terms of engagement, so we have an engagement strategy which is owned by the business and underpinned by data. It's very data driven in that data is made up of employee feedback. It's pulled together every year off the back of an annual engagement survey that we do, and then that's sort of verified by monthly engagement surveys, both leadership and employee forums, and then it's regularly adapted to make sure that it still is fit for purpose and delivering what we need it to deliver by request of our employees. The difference with the 2020 strategy is that in March we had to completely overhaul it, rejig everything and make sure that it was fit for purpose in what none of us knew really would still be going on now, in terms of almost an entirely virtual workplace. So what I'm going to do is I'll take you through the strategy, how we got there, how we've supported employees, how we're continuing to support employees, and how that builds on what today's theme is, which is building a lasting positive mindset. So where in March, well, sort of end of February is when we started pulling this all together. Obviously the first things first was we needed to get a plan, put a plan together that in these sort of uncertain times would provide some clarity and focus in terms of what we should be doing for our employees and as a business. So we came up with a sort of what has become our mantra throughout all of this, which is protect employees, keep the lights on and support vulnerable customers. And as an organisation, that is something that really defines us as a business. There are three key areas for us that we regularly check in against, in terms, not just in terms of engagement, but in terms of everything we do as a business, everything from sort of procurement to the operational work to the HR work. It's very important to us that it's reflective and consistent throughout the organisation. So stage one of the plan is obviously the response. So, you know, how are we responding to this? How are we responding to government guidelines, protecting employees, mobilising everyone to work from home in what traditionally for us is very much a face-to-face, feet on the ground business. As you'll all be familiar, utilities are very operational. So although we have a vast amount of office employees, there's obviously a vast amount of operational employees, and it's getting that balance right so that no one feels like the poor relation in any of it. Stage two is recovery. So that for us, sort of, as lockdown was easing, we were starting to look at getting employees back into the workplace, understanding the impact on workload and working differently, reorganising sort of everything to make sure that in the office people felt safe, and we were obviously adhering with what we should be. And then stage three is reimagine, so fit for future. And we're sort of, we're not there yet, are we? Because we've taken 10 steps back in the last couple of weeks, unfortunately, all together across the UK. But you know, some consideration into what does that look like? How are we going to continue to deliver for customers and employees and outperform what we want to? And is it looking at sort of a corporate restructure to be fit for the future in terms of how we work? Not necessarily not a restructure in the traditional sense. And it's not until I'm saying that out loud I think, oh, actually, a restructure always sounds a bit scary, doesn't it? But in terms of, you know, do we need the traditional bums on seats in the office, or actually
at home? Do you have a mic?
What have we learned from this? And throughout all of this, it's maintaining our employees' confidence in us as an employer over the sort of forthcoming period of uncertainty, as we're continuing to experience that, we need to make sure that we're maintaining employees' well-being, both mentally and physically, and keeping that at the forefront of everything that we do. Because as a business, and our CEO regularly reiterates this, we wouldn't be as successful as we are as a business without our employees. They're our number one asset, and it's entirely important that we protect every aspect of that. So when we look at supporting the whole employee, everything was changing so quickly. What we decided to do, which I think is a fairly sensible approach in most things, is focus on what we can control. So things like working in lockdown, working with children, or if you have care responsibilities, you know, what as an employer can we do? There's reduced contact, we've got social distancing now, there's a new normal, even though we're not sure what that normal is, because that's constantly moving as well. And making sure that everyone's okay. So what we've done from a sort of an engagement point of view is split the whole employee into 3 different areas. So first we have the employee. So when they're actually at work, what can we do? So immediately, sort of mid-March, we introduced one man, one van, which for us supported social distancing for our operational employees. We ensured that every employee that had or was able to drive had their own vehicle, so that they were no longer expected to share a vehicle, which traditionally we have done. And that is still in place now. All office employees were mobilised to home working, which our IT colleagues loved, I'm sure of it. I mean, we've all had, we can joke about it now, but fun with Zoom and Skype and MS Teams. And actually, as a business, we got that off the ground exceptionally quickly. And it's working very well for us. Communication. So how are we telling employees what's going on? So we started with daily video messages from our CEO and a daily Yam Jam. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Yammer, but it's an internal social network. And we made our CEO available for an hour a day to basically take questions, have employees raise issues so that we could take that away. And then that would then be fed back in the following day's video. This has sort of tapered right off now. And we were down to weekly, although we've had 2 this week already, because again, it's all started changing, hasn't it? It's all started ramping up again. And then lastly, moving everything to virtual meetings, learnings and conferences. So, you know, reviewing the development suite that we have and making sure that that's all online and accessible, so that while this was all going on, personal development didn't have to stop. And likewise with meetings and conferences, we have had 3 virtual conferences now. With one, we had 500 delegates on it, and the other 2, we had about 120. And that's with our manager community, because it's really important that they are informed, because as an employee, you go to your manager. So let's make sure our managers have got the tools that they need and the information they need to be able to support their teams. The second area for us is the community. So as a responsible corporate citizen, we've got we have a role in the communities that we operate and live in as employees. So we introduced a number of new initiatives. So this is Support Your NHS. So this is a weekly prize draw, whereby employees can put their name in the hat, so to speak. And each week we will, as an organisation, donate £100 to an NHS trust of their choice. So far, we've donated over £6,500 to various NHS trusts through this. Virtual fundraising, so moving our sort of monthly fundraising events, whether, so for example, this month is Macmillan. How can we do that virtually? So we've set up sort of online fundraising platforms, and things like bake sales have turned into quizzes or raffles, bits like that. personal protective equipment funding for sports clubs or community clubs, so that they can getting back together, but safely. So for example, children's football teams, we've had them apply for masks and sanitizer, bits like that, so that they can get back to their new normal. And then our most recent one, which has probably been our most successful one, to be honest, is the Safer Schools Pack. So we've got an awful lot of parents that work here who were obviously very anxious about their children going back to school. So for us, it was how can we support that? And so we reached out to a number of parents in the organisation, and I've put together a pack that employees can apply for, that they can take for their children. Each pack caters for 30 children, and it contains sort of safety equipment, social distancing, signage, stationery, because children can't share any of this now. So it's about making sure that their communities outside of work have got what they need to be able to adapt to this new normal. And then with regards to the family, so what can we do to support families? Obviously massively important for us. Most people will know your family is your single most prized asset. So as an employer, what can we do to help with that? So we very quickly introduced a buy a book scheme, which is everyone's homeschooling. Let's give a £30 grant so that they can buy the books, whether it's ebooks or physical books, that they need to be able to do that. A carer allowance, so up to £200 a week for people that have care responsibilities but are unable to work from home, to help with those, so that they can get someone in to help them. And wellbeing webinars. So every week we have a wellbeing webinar, and this is open to the employee and their families to join on lots of different topics. So exercising without the gym, eating healthy while at home, because we all know how easy it is to just visit the fridge every 10 minutes in my case. You know, lots of different bits like that. So supporting, again, the whole employee. And then lastly, looking ahead. So as I've alluded to already, the situation is constantly changing, constantly moving. So it's about putting a robust process in place that is going to enable us to constantly empower and support our employees. So it's just a loop of constantly monitoring, planning, engaging, communicating, and reviewing what we're doing to make sure that it's fit for purpose, so that we still protect our employees, keep the lights on, and support our vulnerable customers throughout all of this. And that's me. I'm conscious I speak quite quickly, but hopefully you managed to get what you needed to from that.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you. That was really, really interesting. Great to see the work that you guys are doing there.
Thank you.
Hayley, we on to the next speaker now?
Yep.
Okay, so we've got another great speaker for you today, and our next speaker is a lady called Melanie Greene. So Melanie is an occupational psychologist, and she also runs her own business, which is called Inspire Transformation. Melanie, gosh, I mean, you're a coach, you're a trainer, you're a workspace mediator. On top of this, Melanie has published one book, and you're currently writing your second. And I think your second book focuses on having healthy conflict in the workplace. Oh, here we go. Have we got a little plug of the books? And healthy conflict is definitely something I could probably do some on. As we said before, please don't be scared to ask some questions, and then we'll regroup at the end. I'll pass you over now to Melanie.
Right, thank you very much for asking me to come along and talk about building a lasting positive mindset. So I've already been introduced, but I'm just going to say a little bit about why perhaps I've been asked to come and talk to you about this today. Is I was formerly known as Moody Miserable Melanie when I was growing up, and I have to say, not just when I was growing up, right into my early 30s. And although I don't look too unhappy in this photo, I definitely had a negative mindset. And when I set up my business in 1991, I was able to engage in a lot of different professional development that I could apply to myself as well as my clients. And I really believe in practicing what I preach. So what I'm going to cover today is we're going to look at what do we mean by mindset? How does mindset affect us? The good news is that we can change our mindset. And how do you make a lasting change? And why do people fail? And then I'm going to share some techniques. So I'm going to go through quite quickly, but you will get the PowerPoint afterwards, and feel free to email me. Well, we have got questions afterwards at any rate. So what do I mean by mindset? And there's a lot of different ways of looking at this. You know, you probably have heard about people talking about the glass half full or half empty mindset. I took after the pessimistic side of my family, where the glass was always half empty. And I'm living proof that you can radically change. And I've certainly got a glass half full mindset now. You might have come across Carol Dweck's work about fixed versus growth mindset, which then has a profound impact on us. But I've also included in here this thing about threat versus opportunity. And I think in today's world, where we've got so much going on, is that are we seeing everything as a threat, or are we able to find the opportunity? So I think, you know, there are different ways of looking at mindset. But how does it impact us? Is quite profound. From morning till night, and probably even at night time, to be honest, is your dreams are probably influenced by your mindset as well. But it is impacting on our thoughts and our beliefs about ourselves, about the situation we're in, about other people. That impacts on our mood and our motivation, then how we're communicating, our relationships, whether that's in or outside of work, and also our performance and our success. Now, there are many people who are very successful, but still have a glass half empty mindset. But what you'll find is that they are often very stressed, they suffer from a lot of anxiety, perhaps they don't sleep very well, and they don't get to enjoy their success because of this mindset they have. So it really does impact on our enjoyment and our happiness and our contentment in life. So it's worth, you know, if you feel that you're on the kind of more negative side of things, it's really worth taking the time to use some of the exercises I'm going to talk about in a bit. But there is good news in that we can change our mindset. And so positive psychology came about in 1998, which is when Martin Seligman first mentioned it. When I studied psychology in the 1980s, there was no such thing. You could have definitely called it negative psychology, because it was all the psychology of when things go wrong with human beings, but not about how do we become happier. It wasn't about our well-being or our mental health in a positive way. And then in the last 10 years, we've been learning a lot more from neuroscience about actually what goes on up here and how we can use techniques to master our mind and change our mindset. And what neuroscientists are saying is that using simple techniques from positive psychology that I'm going to show you, you can rewire your brain. So rather than when you're facing a challenge, whether that might be that you're having problems with your computer during a Zoom call, or something much bigger, is that rather than your brain always thinking about threat, is that actually you respond in a more positive way. And then there's Carol Dweck's work that you might have come across between the difference between the fixed and the growth mindset as well. And all of these things are saying that we can change our mindset. So it's really quite exciting. So how do you make lasting change to your mindset? So it's about making consistent changes. And they might be just very small things that you do that start to rewire your brain, but it's the consistency, and I'll talk more about that later. But it's not about denying or suppressing your negative moods and emotions. It's about being able to process them. So I think a lot of the time we can spend time, if we feel negative about something, beating ourselves up for not being positive. So I have an elderly mother who was very independent before lockdown. Her dementia has just radically escalated. It's been incredibly hard. And especially the last few weeks, I have to say on Tuesday morning, I sat down with my journal and I wrote, I feel sad and frustrated and anxious. And all of this stuff came out. And actually, from my experience and the experience of my clients, is that it's only when we process that we can get to a more positive place. If you try and suppress it, you tend to suppress your positive emotions as well. And then you just end up very low or depressed. Or if you try and suppress them or deny it, they will either explode out or seep out in some sort of way. And I've got down there about Weebles Wobble, and depending on your age, you might remember this little toy. The kind of theme tune was about Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. And so, of course, we will wobble. Is that we're in a pandemic, there'll be loads of wobbles about that. Just as we think we're getting back to normal, you might have been celebrating your children going back to school, and then suddenly they're off again, and you're wobbling. It's okay to wobble. It's partly of resilience is being able to have the tools and techniques to be able to right yourself again. So, and I'll talk more about some techniques to do that. So I'd like to do a quick poll here. So Hayley, if you can share the poll. And so what I'd like you to do is to think about what stops you from making lasting changes. And you can choose as many as you want. So feel free as I'm talking through to do it, as there's quite a big number here. So if you want to start submitting, is it that you just stop doing the exercises, you're not doing enough? And it's a bit like, actually, let me just close. I don't know whether the poll's coming up in front of my screen that you're seeing. So, it's a bit like physical fitness. If you stop exercising, your physical fitness is going to go down. And it's the same with our mental health and our mindset. Maybe you stop when you feel good. And I've got this picture here of the Olympic athletes. Is they don't kind of get to their top and go, okay, now I can stop. It's actually they go into maintenance mode. Or maybe you give up when things don't change quickly enough. Or maybe you give up when you slip back and face obstacles, and you might be going, you see, I'm always a negative person, I'm never going to change, and you haven't given it enough time. Or maybe you go on holiday and you don't get back into a good routine. I often coaching clients who come back from holiday and it's all gone pear-shaped, and because they've kind of forgotten. And I was going to say to them, when you go on holiday, you don't forget to clean your teeth. So it's about not forgetting to actually manage our mental health as well in order to have a positive mindset. So Hayley, are we ready to share the outcome of the poll?
Pretty much. We've got 52 of the 61 people on the call to do that. So I can end it and share it now if you like.
I think so, yes. Yeah, that's a good.
53 actually. There you go.
Okay. So the highest one is giving up, just higher, about when you face slip-ups and face obstacles. And one of the techniques I'm going to talk about is about balance debriefing. When things go wrong, is actually, rather than beat yourself up, is about actually doing a balanced approach to learning from it. And also that giving up when things don't change quick enough. Is that, if you were learning learning to play tennis, or learning anything new, is we know that takes time. If you were learning a musical instrument, it takes time to be able to really master it. And it is the same with mastering our mind as well. And it's making sure that we're consistent in it. So what I'm going to do is to take you through 5 different kind of tools and techniques that you can use to help rewire your brain. And they really all focus on your circle of influence. You may have come across good old Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I'm always sharing this model with my clients and organisations. And so within the circle of concern are things that concern you, impact you, but you have no control over. So at the moment, there's a pandemic on, economic chaos, dare I say Brexit. There will be things personally in your life, like my mum's dementia, might be other things going on in your life that have an impact, but you can't change them fundamentally. And if you spend all your time thinking about those and worrying about them, you're going to end up very low, even depressed. You'll be anxious, or you'll be angry, frustrated. It's not a good place to be. So it's focusing on your circle of influence, and that starts with what's going on up here. It's your thoughts and your feelings about a situation, and they then affect how you feel and then how you behave and how you develop. So I'm often sharing this, encouraging people to focus on their circle of influence. And here are some techniques to use to focus on your circle of influence. And feel free, I've put my email on these slides, so feel free to email me and I can send you some of the handouts and worksheets. So the first thing is checking in with yourself regularly. So I give clients a mood map. There's also a feelings wheel to, particularly in the morning, first thing is to check in with yourself and be honest and open about what your emotions are, and explore the thoughts behind the negative emotions, so that you can start the day in the best possible way that you can, given everything else that might be going on in your life. And then think about checking in with yourself. So I have one coaching client who says, his energy goes down as he goes through the day. So he's kind of put some times on his phone to actually check in with himself and take action to be able to re-energize himself or process those negative emotions. The next one is a technique that called the 5 Gs daily exercise, which somebody on my course in November shared with us. We were talking about gratitudes and she shared this and I said, well, that's brilliant, can I use that? And she said, oh yes, somebody gave it to me. And I have to say, during lockdown, I have been using this almost on a daily basis, and it's brilliant for being able to process things and keep up with a positive mindset. So the first thing is to write 5 good things that have happened in the last 24 hours, or 5 things you're grateful for. So, I've had things like the sun is shining again, not today, but it has been for many months. My garden, my wonderful big brother who's just amazing with my mum. So, you write down your gratitudes, and from positive psychology, it shows that actually writing daily gratitudes has an impact on your sense of well-being and your mindset. And then writing down 5 glitches, the things that have gone wrong in the first, the last 24 hours. If you haven't got 5, that's fine. You don't go trying to find them. But it's important to be honest. I have to say, in my journal, I often have quite a lot of swearing going on. I often think if anyone ever finds my journal, when I die or something, I just said to my brother, just burn them all. Because it's important to be honest. And then 5 goals for the next 24 hours. And I always encourage my clients to think about not just the doing, but the being. And in fact, I have an online course that's called Being and Doing. So your being things might be about really staying in the here and now, rather than your inner fearful child worrying about the past or worrying about the future, and worrying things that are outside of your sphere of influence. Another one that I often have is about really enjoying what there is to enjoy today, rather than focusing on all the negative things. So the 5 Gs, I really can't recommend it enough. And then about mastering. So I have written a book about mastering your inner critic and releasing your inner wisdom. Is that there's an exercise which I'm happy to email people if you email me about listening to your whole self. So not just that inner critic who's having a go at you, but also listening to and reassuring your fearful child, being able to tap into your fun child, being able to tap into your nurturing parent and your inner wisdom as well. So, and finally is about balanced debriefing. So rather than beating yourself up when you've struggled, and I just was coaching a head of operations in a manufacturing business yesterday. He had a really difficult meeting last week, and his inner critic was giving him a very hard time. And if we want to develop a growth mindset, it's about being able to debrief from difficult situations in a balanced, constructive way so we learn rather than beat ourselves up. So just to kind of summarize, is that you can rewire your brain to a more positive mindset. Think about the benefits to yourself and other people. Develop daily habits, and I've got a free webinar on the 6th of October about that. Keep on going. If you slip up, learn from it and pick yourself up, learn from it and move on. Focus on your circle of influence. Check with yourself and be honest about negative emotions. Master your inner critic. Listen to your fearful child, and the 5 Gs exercise. And if you want ongoing support, register with my website, and you can receive Melanie's Monday motivational messages and also my monthly coaching newsletter called Inspire. And I've rattled through, but there's time hopefully now for some questions.
I think I had a question actually. So you said you can rewire your brain, but how long does it take for your brain to, you know, start thinking a bit differently?
That's a good question, and it does take some time. I find that with my clients who really run with the exercises and are doing some of the exercises daily, some of the additional ones that were on it, like the listening to yourself on a weekly basis, that they find that within kind of, and it might sound like a long time, but in a lifetime it's not, within about 2 or 3 months, they have radically changed how they're looking at themselves and their life. And it's like physical exercise, because if you're exercising for 3 months and you haven't done anything in the past, is you will notice, but at the beginning it's going to be really hard. And it is like that when we're trying to rewire our brains as well.
Thank you.
So, any other questions, either for Connie or myself?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
And it's a bit practical, but obviously with very busy lives, jobs, kids, other people and stuff, how do you make sure you carve time on a daily basis to do it? Are there kind of hints that you can to actually get into that routine instead of kind of good intention day one and then it kind of fizzles out?
Yeah. I think first of all is do list out the benefits of doing it, because your brain kind of needs to be convinced that it's worthwhile doing it. And, you know, list as many benefits that you're going to benefit, your family going to benefit, colleagues, whoever, so that you are convinced of it. I think is that it's then looking at so when I'm coaching clients, it's like, let's be realistic. What's the best time? And so for each person, it's going to be different. And it may be, you know, some people kind of say, actually, I'm just going to get up 10 minutes earlier. I had one working mother who said, you know, just getting up 15 minutes before the children wake up. So I've got that little bit of time before the world, you know, goes mad for me. You know, other people, it might be at the end of the day, it might be at lunchtime. It's one of my clients said that she takes her, this is during lockdown, but taking her child horse riding on a Saturday, and she said, that's my time for an hour while she's off riding. I'm sat in the car with my journals doing all my stuff. But I think it's also buddy up with somebody, a friend, to actually support and encourage each other. If you haven't got a coach to kind of review, I think then buddy up with a friend and help each other to keep going. Hope that helps, Francis. Any other questions?
I've got one. How do we make sure that our children don't fall into the same sort of self-criticism and negative thinking? How do we stop that from happening?
And I think being a really good model. is that I've had a number of coaching clients with a strong inner critic who've kind of gone, oh, I've seen it in my children. So I think it's, you know, they will, I mean, it's partly nature. So, but it's also will be nurture. So I think if that you can start transforming yourself, but also depending on the age of your children. So I had one client who their children, I think it's sort of 6 and 9, something like that. And so she took the mood map and actually, let's do this as a family. And so, you know, sometimes is, or let's have, this was during lockdown, is that they would have at their family meals, is that everyone says something that they're grateful for. So introducing, you know, if you've got teenagers, it's going to be a different matter. Is that they might not listen to you about it. But I think really modelling it yourself is very important. Hope that helps, Rachel.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? Were there any questions in the chat box? I didn't.
No, just no questions. Just that people like doing the 5 goals. I said that's something I should try and do, and the book mindset is amazing.
Yeah, the one by Carol Dweck is very good. Yeah, very good.
Melanie, do you have any other recommended reads or you know, podcasts and things like that? Because it's, you know, sometimes it's better easier to listen to things, isn't it, than to read.
There's a book that by Jason Goldberg called The Prison Break, and great book, but also it's a great audio book. And I have to say, I'm not a very audio person, but I love Jason because he uses loads of metaphors, and therefore it really captivated me. And so yes, I would really recommend the audiobook of The Prison Break, and also he's got a great sense of humour as well, so and that comes out through, so I would recommend that, definitely.
We have got a question here from Priya, sorry for my pronunciation. Have you read the 5 a.m. Club book?
Ooh, no, I haven't.
No, I have.
Anyone want to say something about the 5 a.m. Club?
So it was a question actually that Francis started with in terms of making time. So the 5 a.m. Club is a concept of getting up at 5 a.m. But having that time before sunrise to focus solely on yourself. And it's got the principle in it of a 20-20-20. So 20 minutes for exercise. I can see Priya nodding now. 20 minutes for exercise, 20 minutes for self-reflection, and 20 minutes of learning.
That sounds great. That sounds great. Now, if you're not a morning person, you might be wanting to do that at another time. Also, it is making sure that you then get to bed on time, because sleep is so essential. So think about that, and think about, you know, what is your evening routine so that you do get a good night's sleep in order to be able to get up at 5 o'clock. Or you might choose a 6 o'clock one if that's more in your keeping.
We have another question from Francis. So what about the impact of diet and exercise? I imagine that has a massive impact.
Well, in terms of our mindset, if you think about it, it's kind of circular. Because if we're in a negative mindset, we're likely to, our diet will go down and exercise. But I think also looking at how your beliefs. So you know, the government used to say is exercise 30 minutes 3 times a week. And then it became, you know, 30 minutes 5 times a week. And then an hour 5 times a week. It was like, I can't do that. And I just created the mindset of doing some exercise is better than nothing. So I think there's so much about how our beliefs then drive our exercise and our diet. And so it is circular. So rather than kind of thinking, right, eating healthily often will come from a positive mindset. And so I would say explore the mindset that's going to help you to do those things. I would also say, given that a lot of us can fall into the trap of comfort eating is how can you comfort yourself and care for yourself other than by food. And, you know, listening, writing in your journal, listening, you know, to yourself, or having, you know, buddying up with a friend and having equal time slots to be able to really have heart to heart with someone just listening, can really help you, rather than actually, whether it's food, drink or something else, and using that in a negative way.
We've got another question here. This is quite a good one. This is from Fiona. So you mentioned that handling teenagers is different. So how would you start to help teenagers who have fallen into very negative thinking, especially with COVID, and finding that they've started uni in a lockdown situation?
It is so hard for young people. And I've done some free webinars and teenagers during lockdown, etc. And teenagers came up a lot with parents. And I would say that one is to really step into their shoes and be able to kind of have that compassion for them. Because I had a lot of, during lockdown, when these teenagers aren't getting out of bed until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and, you know, being furious with them, and the poor things are probably just depressed, or they were staying up and actually with their friends online. So I think it's also about how can you nurture them, but have adult to adult discussions. And I use transactional analysis, the parent adult child a lot model in my work in terms of how we communicate. And it's equally important about how we communicate with teenagers, so that you nurture them, but you can also then have that adult to adult conversations, rather than, it's very easy if you're fearful going into controlling parent conversations. So it really is, it's probably for another whole session. So I think perhaps I need to do a free webinar on just about communicating with teenagers.
We've got just one more comment here, that there are interesting courses regarding mood and food on Future Learn, which is a free learning platform. So that's something we could look at.
Good. I like the fact that I always learn a lot from groups as well, so I will look that up. Thank you very much. So any final questions? No, thank you very much for this opportunity and to meet you all.
I'm just going to go back to our share screen. Don't know what I'm doing. So, as you all know, we run a mentoring program. You can volunteer to be a mentor, or you can apply to be mentored. All of our mentors are on our website, and so you can go and see if there's a mentor there that's that interests you, and if they've got some availability. We tend to take mentors, as I am one of the mentors. We tend to take a mentee on for about 6 months, give or take, depending on the person's requirements. But we've had a recent influx of mentors, and we've had lots of people applying to be mentored as well. So we just want to, as you put, that offer out to everybody, to talk about the fact that we've got this scheme. We always welcome new mentors and new mentees, and to go and have a look on there. A lot of people think actually I have to be really senior to be a mentor, and that is so not the case. We've all got different skills and experiences, and we can all offer something or pass something on to somebody else. And it may well be somebody spots you for your technical knowledge and thinks, actually, you've got a load of experience in the area. I'd like to understand a bit more. I'd like to spend some time with you. And it could be maybe more career focused. So just like to remind you that scheme's there. It's free. Mentors give their time, and so perfect now, because we're all digital. We don't have to kind of arrange to meet in some kind of random coffee shop in London where we're trying to all nav on our phone to get there at the same time, and we can do everything virtually now. So just please do go and have a look at that, and register your interest for either being a mentor or a mentee if you're interested. Then we have our next events. Sharon, do you want to talk through these?
Yeah, can you pop on the next slide? Oh, there we go. Yeah, so put this in your diary. So coming up in the next couple of weeks. So one that's probably sort of quite close to my heart, working for EDF. So on the 1st of, so at 1 p.m, sorry, on Wednesday the 28th, it's electric vehicles, and we're going to have Pod Point there, a gentleman called James, telling us all about EV. And then one on Tuesday the 24th of November, and that's going to be an industry focus, and it's definitely, I think, the buzzword now of LinkedIn, and it's all about hydrogen, so that's definitely one to pop in your diary as well.
And don't forget to follow us on the on social media, on LinkedIn, and the other activities that we do. We're frequently posting we're putting posts on there, but in terms of our meetings and the stuff we're doing, we highlight it all on LinkedIn. And Sharon's part of that fabulous team now, helping to encourage and grow our membership. So please do follow us on LinkedIn, and if you've got any you want to join the group, you can contribute, you can get involved. It's all there to help you get the best out of the network. We are here for our members. Sharon, there must be something you want to add about that, being new to this advocate role.
I think we're just looking now at you know, our plans and what we want to do for, I mean, this year's been a bit different, so we're looking at towards the end of this year, but then what we want to do is plan what we do next year. So all I'd encourage, if you have ideas or topics that you really you know want us to cover, then please just get in touch with us. Absolutely. I'd really encourage some you know engagement and some debate on what we are posting, and just remember that network's there for you, and it's there to keep us all together and you know that network while we're living in this very sort of strange time. So please do feel free to sort of chip in and you know contribute and let us know what you want to see, really.
And just on the final word before we wrap up, is that each month we're planning new events, new themes, so you can see the ones that come up, but we're really open to ideas. You know, if you've got something you think would be really valuable to that you've heard or you've seen, and you think actually the network, you think the network would really value from this, then do. We are trying to intersperse some of some personal development and industry skills or industry knowledge, and we also like to have sessions where you can actually go into breakout rooms and network and chat with each other, because we know that you guys really like to do that as well. But please do provide some feedback. You can write to info at the One, or to Helen's in the screen there, Helen at the One as well. And let us know your thoughts and what ideas and things that you'd like to you think we should be doing for our membership. So that brings it to an end. Judging by the comments and the attendees, I think you've all found that really valuable. So it's a great session. Thank you. My thanks to Connie. Big thank you to Connie for sharing what they've been doing at UKPN. It would be great if every business was operating to that level. I think that would be really excellent. And also huge thank you to Melanie as well for coming along and sharing her expertise. Absolutely fabulous insights, and hope everyone's going away feeling super positive now. So thanks all, and until next month, we'll see you then.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.